Hi, and welcome back to BizDev Weekly. I'm Kirsten Kloss, and today my guest is Miriam Slasberg, and she is coming to us from Toronto, Canada. And, Miriam is an expert in social media and social media reach. And when I mean social media reach, it means how many people you're influencing online with your communication. Not just spamming, actual engagement. Well, Miriam, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Kirsten. It's a real honor.
Well, you were recently recognized as a digital influencer by American Genius, a business entrepreneur's beat, I guess it's an online communication portal.
Yep.
You're actually really well connected. I mean, it's your business. You besides being a mom, you also, you're an author and you're a social media manager for businesses. You consult and you coach entrepreneurs and individuals on harnessing the power of social media, whether it be for themselves and finding a job or actually out there representing a company. It's all about social influence. And, maybe the really what we should do here is look at that whole topic of social influence. What is the difference, first of all, between social media presence, which is being out there, and the influence side of it? Can you give us maybe some clarity on the difference?
Yep. I can certainly do that. See, anybody who has Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, and if anyone who is constantly using it and constantly using it for their own purposes without any direction, they're there. They have a social presence and they're creating a lot of noise since they're not sharing anything of value. So the difference between just having a social presence and social influence is what they're using these platforms in order to share anything that's relevant to their niche. They're engaging with others properly, they're interacting, and they're growing their tribe because people are attracted to what they're putting out. That's what influence is. And when you have influence, you will stand out out in the middle of that noise. From that noise, people are going to see you regardless of how noisy it is in the background, because that's social presence can mean noise, and no one's going to even care if you're just making a lot of racket, right?
Well, and I guess getting out there, it's tough, I mean, there's a lot to do. And as you mentioned, if there's so much noise, it's tough to get noticed out there. How do you, or even just get a following? I mean, I know there's the immediate friends and family, and if you happen to have a network of people that are already connected, it kind of gives you a jump start. But if you're not, how do you get started in kind of creating that presence that leads to social influence when managed properly?
Well, the first thing I want to say before I get into it is that Rome was not built in a day. So it's not an overnight process, right? So you got to be patient, and you've got to just focus on, okay, what do I really want to be influential in? What is it that I can offer? What kind of, what can I offer others? What can I offer, what can I offer to those who will be interested? What will people be interested in? So once you determine that and you find your passion, you start sharing content that's relevant to what you want to be influential in. And you make it very relevant, such as how-to stuff. How-to stuff content is good. But remember, you don't want to share only relevant content. You got to mix it up too. I'd say 80% of the time you should, but 20% of the time I call it miscellaneous content, meaning sharing anything that's engaging and compelling by asking just random questions, like if somebody has some sort of experience and you need to have their input, like say for instance you're having a problem with your computer and you need some advice, and be sure to be there to offer advice to others who are asking some similar questions. You can also put pictures of something pretty, like a nice scenery or puppy or desserts, like something that will you would call eye candy, because that is what captivates people. But you're not going to be putting that all the time, because that turns into noise, right? So
you got to have some fun factor, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Now, what about the origins of the content? I mean, you mentioned your own relevant content to your specific interests, and would you say 80%?
I'd say about that.
Yeah. So then of the other mixtures, I've spoken with some other social media people that talk about curating information and distributing that. Then obviously there's the idea of the dialogue information, which is the third. How would you mix all that in? And what's your feeling about curating information? And, what is it called? Liking and sharing, I guess, that whole concept of those two. And plus oneing, I should mention that as well.
Yeah.
So how does that all fit in?
You got to do it all. I agree with them. You've got to absolutely do it because you got to mix it up. You can't just do one thing or the other. You got to mix it up. But that's how people will pay attention to you too. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, people are not going to be interested either. And regardless of what the content is, they want to see a mix, right? So you share your own content, you share other people's content that's relevant to you, relevant to your niche. And again, just throw some miscellaneous stuff out there and stay engaging. Talk to others. If somebody likes and comments on your content, be sure to engage with them. And if you can't do it to everybody, just make sure if it's on Facebook, for instance, make sure you acknowledge it by liking their response. That in itself is good enough, right? It does get too time consuming. I get that, and it can be overwhelming, but you just got to do your best and stay interactive. And if you're doing your best, people will know. They'll know. So that's how you stand out.
So you're a busy person, and for me, I'm not. I don't use social media a lot for my personal sharing of family events and things. That my wife does that a lot more than I do. I use it to syndicate this show and various other information about the guests I have on my shows. What do you do if you actually don't have time to keep it up? I mean, it's kind of like blogging. If you blog for a few months and then stop, it doesn't look good. You got to kind of have a certain amount of repetition. What do you do, let's say, if you hire somebody to help you manage it? What would you suggest in that situation?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You would have to look at and manage it, right? And now the other option is for short term. This is short term. If you really want to save on money, is to schedule outposts by using tools like Hootsuite. However, I'd be careful with that because the thing is, if you're scheduling posts all the time, people are going to know because it tells you where it's coming from. You get that annoying Hootsuite link. You know what I mean? Yep. And you also got to square away time to engage, which you got to do regardless, even if you have somebody managing your social media. You still got to find time to engage with others. If you're out all day working and you're busy, either you schedule it or you have someone managing your social media. You tell them exactly what kind of content to look for and what you're about, and make sure that they're sharing in your voice. That's very important. That's what you've got to, and you've got to make sure that a social media manager is going to take care of all that for you. But you also are responsible for squaring away some time, even if it's just a half an hour in your day, even if it's broken up, to see who's engaged with you so you can engage back. Right? It's very important because if you're just putting information out, whether it's automated or someone managing it, people are going to ignore you, and you're just going to be in that noise area.
Noise category, and they'll just ignore, or they're going to remove you as a friend. Well, it's great stuff, and I know what you're talking about. I mean, I've had conversations with other social media people who have talked about listening, and listening is as important as posting. And what you're saying makes total sense. So I guess that's the important thing, is that if you're dealing with a manager that's going to help you with this, they have to probably filter and give you the keys on what to respond to, and properly respond in a timely manner. I guess that's the answer.
Yes, it is.
If you had one piece of advice you could give our audience, what would that be? Just sort of in closing here, Miriam, what would you suggest?
Just if you're going to use social media, just remember just not to make a lot of noise, and be sure to share content that is relevant to your interests and niche, and just be sure to stay engaging. And in time, people will notice you. So just be careful that you don't end up in that noise category. That's very important. Fantastic.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. Stay tuned for our other shows. We're going to bring Miriam back. We'll talk about mistakes and things you can do wrong online and social media. She's got some good pointers about that coming up, as well as how to measure the success of your social media campaigns, and as well kind of a report card on those that might be working with you on managing your social media. So thanks everyone for watching. It's great to have you. Miriam, great to have you as well.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. See you again real soon.